Morning, guys. So first things first, I want to mention that tomorrow is your first quiz for the World War II unit, which is obviously what we're currently on. This week, we've already covered a whole bunch of material. So things that might be on the quiz tomorrow include appeasement. You might have some documents related to appeasement, those ideas of Nazism, fascism, and totalitarianism, those beliefs that we studied on Monday and Tuesday, as well as the Nuremberg laws, which we have not yet studied. That's what today's lesson is about. So this quiz, it will open tomorrow, and that's the only work that you'll have to do for tomorrow. It will remain open until Saturday at noon. So if you want to take a little break, if you want to take a little break and do it on Saturday morning, that's totally fine. But it's Saturday at noon, the quiz will close and you won't have an opportunity to make it up. So please make sure that you get that done by Saturday at noon. That all said, let's turn to the learning target for today. I will be able to explain how social, political, and economic discrimination affected the lives of Jewish people in Germany before the Holocaust. So there's a couple of terms that are probably familiar to us right off the bat. We're probably familiar with these terms: social, political, economic. If you need, excuse me, you're probably familiar with those terms: social, political, economic. But if you need a quick refresh of social, political, economic, or what social, political, economic discrimination means, that will come in today's main activity. I don't want to waste time on it up front in this video, because you will think about or have definitions for those terms when you begin the day's activity. The other main new term in this learning target for a lot of us might be Holocaust. I imagine that you probably studied the Holocaust at some point, or you've just heard about it because it was such a tragedy. It's one of the worst tragedies that's happened in modern human history. So you've probably heard of the Holocaust before. During the Holocaust, over 11 million people died, and it happened in the middle of World War II. We will be studying the Holocaust today and all of next week. Today, we're just going to get an introduction to what the lives of Jewish people were like in Germany before the Holocaust. Holocaust is a form of genocide. The word Holocaust means genocide. Genocide is when a specific group is murdered or attacked because of their race, their religion, or their culture. During the Holocaust, 11 million people died. Approximately 7 million of those people were Jewish. In today's lesson, we are going to figure out how social, political, and economic discrimination affected Jewish people even before the Holocaust started. So first, I've got a quick brain pop video that gives you a general overview of what happened during the Holocaust. And then your job today will be to look at some of the laws passed in Germany right before the Holocaust started to figure out what were the lives of Jewish people like before the Holocaust even begun. So first, I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the brain pop video. Sorry, guys. This brain pop video is also posted separately in today's instruction link if you find that it's laggy here.
It says here that all these people were killed in the Holocaust. Dear Tim and Moby, what was the Holocaust? From Brian. The Holocaust was the systematic murder of about 6 million Jews during World War II. It was the worst genocide that we know of. More people were killed during the Holocaust than during any other genocide in human history. Genocide is when one group of people tries to completely wipe out another group. During World War II, Germany's leader, or Führer, was Adolf Hitler. Before the war, Hitler and his Nazi party gained popularity by promising to make Germany a rich and powerful nation again after the defeat in World War I. Racism, especially anti-Semitism, was a focus of the Nazi agenda. Anti-Semitism is racism against Jews. The Nazis publicly blamed the Jews for Germany's loss of World War I, the Great Depression, and everything else that people thought was wrong with the world. Well, unfortunately, anti-Semitism didn't start with the Nazis. It has a long history in Europe. The Nazis used Jews as a scapegoat for Germany's problems. It's a lot easier to blame someone else for what's wrong instead of working to make it better. People do that all the time on a much smaller and less destructive level. In Germany, the Nazis passed laws that slowly gave Hitler absolute control of the government, and they began to restrict the Jewish people's rights. Quotas, or limits, were placed on the number of Jewish students schools could enroll. Jewish people were forced to live outside of Germany in Nazi-controlled ghettos. The largest ones were in Warsaw, Poland. Things got more and more extreme for the Jewish people. In 1935, the Nuremberg laws took German citizenship away from all Jews. I never thought about it that way, but you're kind of right. The beginning of the Jews' oppression was a bit like segregation in the US, but it was happening to Jews in Germany. They were forced to wear yellow stars on their clothes so everyone would know who was Jewish. And on the streets, people were encouraged to harass Jews. It was legal because Hitler was in charge. It all came to a head on November 9th, 1938, when Nazi mobs across Germany murdered 90 Jews, destroyed temples, and looted Jewish-owned shops. It was called Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass. That night, German authorities arrested 30,000 Jews and sent them to concentration camps. Concentration camps were large prisons that the Nazis built as part of their final solution, a government-run plan to exterminate the Jews. Hitler was so crazy that it wasn't enough for him to be separate from the Jewish people. He literally wanted them gone from the face of the earth. The Nazis' final solution was to kill all the Jewish people whom they could round up. Whatever lies were told to the people heading there at the time, many concentration camps were places of death. Millions of Jews were killed in gas chambers at these places. The Nazis also killed other people they saw as undesirable, like Slavic people, gypsies, homosexuals, communists, and the developmentally disabled. By the time the war ended and the camps were liberated, the Nazis had murdered close to 6 million Jews and millions more other people they didn't like. No one's really sure of the exact number, but something like 10 million people were murdered by the Nazis. Yeah, me too. It's really sad and overwhelming. Hey, you guys should talk about this with your parents and teachers. They're good for that, you know.
All right, so as Moby and Tim just explained, the Holocaust involved the murder of almost 11 million people, many of whom were Jewish. Today's lesson explores life for Jewish people in Germany before the Holocaust even began. So let's scroll to the second page to figure out what we need to accomplish today. Directions. Hitler became very popular through his speeches blaming the Jews for Germany's loss of World War I and the country's financial problems before World War II. His speeches were incredibly hateful. As Hitler rose to power, he gathered followers and created an official political group called the Nazi Party. In 1933, Hitler and the Nazis officially became the head of Germany's government. Laws discriminating against Jews were quickly passed once Hitler and the Nazis came to power. These laws were called the Nuremberg laws. After reading the documents on the following pages, answer the questions on your social, political, and economic discrimination graphic organizer. Pick 5 documents to complete your graphic organizer. So you have 7 options, you are picking 5. Using the descriptions of social, political, and economic discrimination, fill in the graphic organizer. You are going to need to do 2 things, answer 2 questions in order to complete this graphic organizer. The first question you need to answer, does this document relate to social, political, or economic discrimination? You simply need to name which form of discrimination the document relates to, social, political, or economic. In the last column is where you're really offering your analysis. Summarize the main idea of the document in this space. Then explain why the law or event described in the document relates to social, political, or economic discrimination. Explain in 3 to 5 sentences. No one-sentence answers, please. If you keep scrolling, you will find all of the documents that you can use for today.